والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الفاتح الخاتم وعلى آله وصحبه العظيم. Assalamu alaikum, distinguished scholars, eminent invitees, my Muslim brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Modibo of Gusau presented a very comprehensive paper on Sharia, its implementation, the challenges, in fact, the historical background of the declaration of Sharia in some of our states. And that is very appropriate because he came from the state that made the first declaration, that is Zamfara State. Perhaps my remarks will look at the fact that although I am not of the opinion that we should keep lamenting on how enemies of the implementation of Sharia are strategizing against us, how they succeed in stopping us in some areas, I prefer that perhaps if I may use the terms of Bulama Bukarchi when he advised the federal government to change its strategy from being defensive to being offensive. It appears that we are always on the defense. We are always defensive, trying to justify, trying to rationalize why we must be allowed, why should we. In fact, the plurality of our society constitutes no hindrance to the implementation of Sharia. The secularity of the Nigerian constitution constitutes no hindrance to the implementation of Sharia for Muslims because it is exclusively for Muslims. So I wonder why our popularity can have no impact on the way and manner they conduct their lives. But our popularity will always have a negative impact on us. They always exploit our popularity and the secularity of the Constitution to have their way. When it comes to us, we are always at the receiving end. We lament, we complain, we defend, we justify, we rationalize. So I think it's high time that we change this attitude of ours, that we need to challenge them on the ground that these are our constitutional rights. We don't have to be confrontational, and we don't have to be violent at all. There is no need. Because the first capital of Islamic state in the world was Medina. Medina was never conquered. The Prophet ﷺ came and arrived and was received jubilantly by the Muslim residents of Medina in jubilation. And they hosted him, alayhi salatu wasalam, to show you that he is the prophet of civilization. What he did first was to invite all the segments of the Medina society, including the Jewish community of Medina, the few Christians that were around, the remaining pagans that did not accept Islam, to come and draft a constitution on how to coexist in this territory called Medina. How to coexist. In fact, the constitution drafted was very clear in defining the components of the Medinan society. That Muslims, both Muhajirun and Ansar on one hand, and the non-Muslim, the Jewish community, the pagans, and it was so explicit on their rights as ours. That is why no war was waged by our dear Prophet, upon be peace and blessings, against the Jewish community of Medina on the ground of faith. They were all driven out of Medina on the ground that they committed what we call in our modern terms, that is what is this term? Not sabotage. It's out of question. When somebody is found guilty of treason anywhere in the world, it's a capital crime. So it attracts capital punishment in most parts of the world. That offenses of this nature are capital and they should be so treated. And that's what led to the elimination of people like Kabul al-Ashraf and so on and so forth, because they committed treason, not because they refused to accept Islam. Get it right. None of the Jewish tribes of Medina was fought by the Prophet on the ground of faith. They were all fought because they committed treason. Otherwise, perhaps they would have been in Medina up to now. Because if they complied with the conditions, and if they respected the tenants and they complied with the, of that constitution that was drafted, then definitely their rights to existence in Medina, their rights to free Aqidah would have been respected as well. So this must be clear to all of us. And another thing is that I always had the idea of having us, of the fact that we always have our way of life being dictated by some other people. They should tell us what kind of Islam they want us to practice. They will tell us the kind of Muslim that they can tolerate, while we have no right to tell them the kind of Christian or the kind of non-Muslim that we can tolerate. Islam has never been so weak. I mean Muslims, not Islam. Muslims have never been so weak in the entire history of our existence that our way of life must be dictated by others. They will tell us the kind of Muslim that we need to be so as to conform with the modern day world. This is very important because we have already developed, unfortunately as Ummah, inferiority complex, that we always work for them to tell us the kind of Muslim, how moderate, who is extreme, who is not. You have never had an extreme non-Muslim, an extremist non-Muslim. You always have an extremist Muslim. So, and this is very important, and every day presents an opportunity to raise a new nation. Let's assume that we have failed our religion. Even if we failed, a new generation is born today that will replace us in the next 50 years. I believe in the next 50 years, none of us sitting here would be relevant. Will be neutralized by either age or death, right? For example, right now I'm 50 years old. In the next 50 years, I'll be neutralized by either age or death. And so is the case with many of you around here. That means a new generation that is going to take over from us is born today. We have the right to train them the way we want. The leaders we complain about today were products of 50, were given to their parents 50, 55 years, 60, 75 years back. They were given to their parents to train as leaders. But unfortunately, perhaps they did not know that those people would be destined to be leaders. That's why they did not even care what kind of people they train. So if we are committed and resolved to raise a nation of ideal Muslims today, this day presented an opportunity of newly born babies that will constitute a new nation in the next 50 years. So I think it's high time we start planning along this line when it comes to giving proper training to our children and our wards with these few words, because the MC is it's on my neck. So, and this must be clear, and the message is very much clear that we need to, perhaps the state that established Sharia did not bother to come up with the concept of having media houses that will carry out media propaganda for Sharia. so as to counter all the propaganda against Sharia. Perhaps we did not consider that as very important thing. That's why in this part of the country, we hardly have formidable media houses that can compare with their counterpart in the southern part of the country. I don't want to be regional, get me right. What I mean, media houses that can defend our views, our values, our ideals as Muslims. Very competent ones that can compare with any other media house in the world. So whenever you come across any television station or satellite station in of Islam, it only provides teaching on fiqh, hadith, Quran, tafsir, but there are no programs that are aimed at educating the whole world on what really Islam is.
Less than sir.
Assalamu alaikum. عفوا يا امسي ما شاء الله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد الفاتح. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.